What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm gonna be talking about Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant. #1, written by Iman Villani and Sabir Pirzada, with art by Carlos Gomez and Adam Gorm, with color by Eric Arciniega. This might have been one of my most anticipated comics coming out this week, and it's largely just based on the fact that, well, for one, big Ms. Marvel fan over here, but also because this comic is written by Iman Villani, co-written by her, and she is a first-time writer, and if that name sounds familiar, it's also because she is the very same person who plays Ms. Marvel on the big and small screen in the MCU. This is the first time that anyone connected to a Marvel character in the MCU has written their own character. So I was very excited for this, and not only just because, oh yeah, it's Iman Villani, she's in the MCU, she plays Ms. Marvel, you know, in the Disney Plus series, she's gonna be playing Ms. Marvel again in the Marvels. It's also because Iman Villani is a student of the game. Iman is someone who is very knowledgeable about comics. She is very in tune and in touch with all things Marvel Comics, to the point that she has made some very good arguments even to Kevin Feige, the guy who is in charge of Marvel Studios, about things that aren't right or are wrong about what they're doing with the adaptations of a lot of characters. So yeah, I was very excited to see what was gonna be her take on all this, and I'll go ahead and get that part out of the way. Does Iman Villani truly get the character that she claims she understands, that she knows so well? Of course she does. Of course she does. She already plays this character in the MCU. She was already intimately familiar with this character even before joining the MCU to play this character. So yes, of course, yeah, she gets the character. She knows. She has been in the trenches. She has read the comic. She knows the history. So yeah, there's lots of little deep cuts and references to, like, if you were ever a person who, and God help you if you haven't, but if you are a person who has even read a smattering of Ms. Marvel comics, there are going to be a lot of deep cuts and Easter eggs that you're going to see spread and sprinkled across this entire comic. She is letting you know off rip that she knows the game. There's even a reference here, not just for Kamala Khan, but also even for Carol Danvers. There's a reference in here, just a little throwaway tongue-in-cheek reference to Carol Danvers' Seventh Sense, something that even hardcore Carol Danvers fans don't talk about very often, and I thought that was a really cool reference to throw in there. The references between her time being amongst the Avengers, the Champions, and how she never really hangs out with the Inhumans as much as she hangs out with any of the rest of them, as well as her getting thrust into the X-Men just amidst all the craziness, with the Hellfire Gala, which, I feel like, once again, I have to put this out here, but welcome to the X-Men, Kamala Khan. I hope you survived the experience. But the point of the matter here is that Kamala Khan is doing what Kamala Khan does best in this issue, and I feel like, yes, there are going to be some people who say, oh, well, she's only co-writing this, so it's hard to say, what's her and what isn't, but I feel like even with Sabir Pirzada, kind of hanging in there with her on this, I feel like there is a lot of Iman Villani in this book. All of that aside, if you have somehow been under a rock and you did not know, Ms. Marvel is a mutant. If you're wondering why is she got the subtitle, The New Mutant, it's because she is technically a new mutant. And I've talked about this in a couple of other videos in a little bit more detail. If you want to go check those out, they're up here somewhere. But I will say just real briefly, the reason why all this is happening is not just because she's a mutant in the MCU now, though I think that actually helps a lot. But originally, Ms. Marvel was supposed to be a mutant when she was initially created. Her co-creators, both G. Willow Wilson and Sana Amanat, have both said on multiple occasions that Ms. Marvel was initially supposed to be a mutant, not an Inhuman. And if you go back and look at the timetable there, when Ms. Marvel was created, that was roughly around the time when Marvel was not really actively pushing X-Men and mutant characters to the forefront, and it was largely due to Fox having the rights to the X-Men and they were just cranking out movies, and Marvel didn't want to give Fox any more ammunition to keep firing off all those misses. But that is neither here nor there. Point of the matter here is that she's a mutant now, and what is she doing at this particular point? We saw already in X-Men number 25 that she is helping the X-Men. She is literally an X-Man now. She is working with Synch and Talon, who are kind of leading the charge on this. They're the only surviving members of the astonishing X-Men that were announced at the 2023 Hellfire Gala, other than Juggernaut. Juggernaut is actually revealed to have survived his encounter with Nimrod, and we know we're going to be seeing him again shortly. He's very likely in ORCHIS's clutches. So yes, he is there, so we will be seeing Juggernaut at some point, hopefully, rejoining the X-Men. But right now, Synch and Talon are investigating ORCHIS, trying to figure out how to strike back at them to, give them a receipt for what they did at the Hellfire Gala. And right now, they don't really have a whole lot to work with, but what they do know is ORCHIS has a secret facility that's hidden underneath the Empire State University campus. And it just so happens Kamala was already going to be studying at a summer program there, getting ready for college, and it all lines up. So she was going to be there anyway. They can use her to spy on ORCHIS way. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. Why Ms. Marvel? Why does Ms. Marvel have to be the one to infiltrate this ORCHIS secret laboratory? Well, the reasoning behind this is actually a few different things, one of which being that she's already done something like this before. If you go back over to the Zeb Wells Amazing Spider-Man, and God help you if you have, it's not been great as of late. Some people would even argue that it never was. Ms. Marvel has already proven that she can infiltrate an organization. She did very much the same thing to Norman Osborn back in the early days of Zeb Wells' Amazing Spider-Man run. Norman Osborn had been reformed, and his Oscorp was on the rise, and he was no longer a bad guy. He is now a good guy. And the issue here was that Kamala Khan just didn't trust him. She didn't trust Norman Osborn. She knew he was the Green Goblin, and she just had a sneaking suspicion that at some point he was gonna break bad and become the Green Goblin again. So she infiltrated Norman Osborn's Oscorp, and no one was the wiser about it. She kept tabs on him the whole time. So she's already experienced with this. Now, I know another thing you're probably thinking, just based on things we've seen in the Alpha Flight series in just this one issue. ORCHIS has means to detect mutants. So if she's gonna be there, they're very easily gonna be able to suss out that she's a mutant. Wrong, they actually can't. They can detect mutants, but they can't detect her because Kamala's X gene was never activated. Kamala is both an inhuman and a mutant. She has latent inhuman DNA within her body, but she also has an X gene, and she is the first character ever to have been revealed to have anything like that going on with her. Now, the reasoning why her X gene never activated is because of the Terrigenesis. Because her X gene had not activated at the point that the Terrigenesis had turned her fully into an inhuman, that left her X gene dormant. Now, I know what some people are probably thinking. They're probably thinking that, well, when she was resurrected, couldn't they have disabled her inhuman genes and then activated her X gene, and then she just could have been a mutant wholesale? This one is kind of a double-edged sword. The reason why they didn't do that, and it's not explained here in this book, but I'm just telling you why they didn't do it, is because Ms. Marvel's inhuman power is different, most likely, from what her actual mutant power is. Since her X gene was never activated, we don't know what her power would have been at this point, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say that it would probably be something that would put her a lot closer to who she is and what she can do in the MCU. It would very likely be something along the lines of being able to generate hard light constructs, and this would just be another way to bolster her shape-shifting and body manipulation abilities. So you would imagine if they cut off her inhuman power, that would basically just leave her powerless as well. So yeah, they're not gonna do that. And not only that, they're not gonna take something away from her that she so clearly cared about, that she loved having her power. So they're not gonna take that from her, especially not without consulting her first, and it wasn't like they could, because she was already dead. She died at the hands of Rabin, in what was it, Amazing Spider-Man number 26. It's not like Charles could have been like, hey, you know, I know you're dead and everything, you've shuffled off this mortal coil, do you want us to leave you with them inhuman powers, or do you want this MCU shit? No, they're not gonna do that. And I also think the other reason behind it too is, in universe, taking away Kamala's agency and whether or not she keeps her powers or not is a big no-no, but I also think it would be a huge smack in the face of the people who are already fans of Ms. Marvel. And I know there are gonna be people who say, oh, they change characters and take their powers away and give them new powers and new identities all the time, and I think this is just one of those you leave alone. I would say just right now, based on internet popularity alone, Ms. Marvel is probably one of the most popular new characters that Marvel has, and the only character that gives her any competition in that arena is Miles Morales, who you might imagine is perfect. Also more of a household name. And honestly, I don't even think Ms. Marvel's that close to his popularity. I think she's closer than most other new characters, but yeah, there's still a country mile between them. And I think Marvel's smart enough to know not to mess up the bag with that. The real question is, what is ORCHIS doing? And you know what? Before we do that, I know what you guys are thinking. You're probably thinking, oh wait, this is the moment. Blerd Without Fear is gonna hit us with a wild, out of nowhere channel plug. And you know what? I could. I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna use my platform this time around to not talk about anything so selfish as, you know, you not having hit that like button yet. And I'm not even gonna use this opportunity to talk about why you should subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the videos breaking down all of both my and your favorite comics from Marvel, DC, Image, Boom Studios, whoever, you know, wherever. I'm actually gonna use this opportunity to talk about a comic called Joystick Angels. Joystick Angels is an anime and manga inspired comic that is written by TJ and J. Spencer Sterling, as well as with art by Jonathan L. Ledesma, as well as colors by Loris Ravina. This comic features a diverse group of teenagers who, with the aid of their own unique spaceships, are fighting for the fate of humanity. And this comic is a lot of different things. It takes a lot of inspiration from some manga and anime you may know, things like Gundam or Voltron and so on and so forth. Not only that, but Ray Comics, the producers behind this, not only give you an amazing comic, but you also get an amazing soundtrack to go along with it, produced by J. Spencer Sterling, one of the co-creators of Joystick Angels. Matter of fact, the music you can hear in the background at this precise moment in the video is actually some of the music you can expect to find on that soundtrack. If any of this sounds of any interest to you whatsoever, go check out the link in the description below, as well as a pinned comment below. You'll be able to pick up all 3 issues of Joystick Angels once they're completed, and you don't have to worry about, oh wait, when is the book gonna come out? Is it ever gonna come out? Looking at some of you Comicsgate guys here right now when I say this, but Ray Comics delivers on every single Kickstarter that they put out. With that said, go click that link, back the project, and tell them the Blerd Without Fear sent you. Now, with that said, let's get back to the video. One of the things I love here, Iman Villani and Sabir Pirzada are putting Karima Shapandar front and center on this. And while she doesn't show up until the end of the comic, Karima Shapandar, for those who don't know, she is also Omega Sentinel. She is a character that was reintroduced during Jonathan Hickman's House of X and Powers of 10, and we don't really see a whole heap of a lot of her. She just kind of takes a back seat, and when Moira McTaggart had thrown herself into becoming a cyborg and then joined up with ORCHIS, Omega Sentinel just kind of went even further to the background, but she's still there making moves. And right now what she's doing is she's overseeing the ORCHIS facility underneath the ESU campus. And what's going on is that she's got her teams experimenting on alien life forms. Now, the one we see specifically in this is one of the Chitauri, and we don't really know what the purpose is behind their experimentations on alien life forms, but I can definitely tell you that Omega Sentinel's purpose with ORCHIS is not just to eradicate all mutants. In the end, and I say this, and I try to say this every time because I feel like this is something that people are going to forget, and they're going to act so surprised when it comes to be announced on a more official level. ORCHIS, at least as far as characters like Nimrod and Omega Sentinel, they don't care about protecting humanity. They are setting the entire world up to be taken over by the Phalanx. That is the end game. I promise you, that is in fact the end game. If you want any further proof as to the fact that even if they're not doing this for the Phalanx, but just the idea that they have no interest in protecting humanity itself or ORCHIS's ideals, look no further than the Powers of 10 series. Who was in charge? Nimrod and Omega Sentinel, and time always wants to repeat itself. That said, Omega Sentinel has a new helper, someone who we only know by the name Nitika, and she is, as far as we know, she is an East Indian woman. She at least shares some level of culture alongside Kamala Khan, and we already see in this that Omega Sentinel is suspicious of Nitika, thinking that maybe she might be helping Ms. Marvel stay undetected, but I think it's safe to say that that's not the case. She's not helping Ms. Marvel, but part of me wonders if she has some other purpose there. Like, what is her purpose working there at ORCHIS? She seems to already be manipulating things behind the scenes to direct attention away from her whenever something gets messed up. We see in this when another officer of ORCHIS, she sabotages the records to make it appear that the ORCHIS officer that's accusing her of incompetence is the one who actually looks incompetent instead, by making it appear that he was the one who was overseeing the Chitauri's test subject at the time. So yeah, there's something going on there, and I think it's safe to say that she's probably not a bad guy. She's probably infiltrating ORCHIS no differently than Kamala Khan is. The real elephant in the room on this, though, is that Omega Sentinel mentioned something by the name of Project Trojan Horse. We don't know what it is, but I think it's safe to say, just based off the name alone, it's probably something they're going to use to bug Kamala Khan with. Maybe some kind of a virus, or maybe some sort of nanomachine tracker that would allow them to piggyback Ms. Marvel. And since she's working with the X-Men now because of her new costume and her new identity and how she is making it well known that she is a mutant above and beyond all else, something tells me this is gonna go back to some things we've seen before. If you go back to the Matthew Rosenberg run of Uncanny X-Men just before House of X, there was this whole big to-do where the ONE had turned mutants into sleeper agent sentinels. They were infected with a modified version of the transmode virus, and whenever they were in the presence of another mutant, they would transform from their normal selves into this crazy looking golden sentinel monster. And I wonder if this is a throwback to that. And we already know that nanomachine sentinels are already a thing because we've already seen them in the Astonishing Iceman series by Steve Orlando. So yeah, that is what my guess is here as to what Project Trojan Horse is. Something that they can infect her with, and then when she goes and runs back to the X-Men, she is gonna wind up putting everyone at risk. I liked the commentary on Ms. Marvel and her realizing that just because she thought that coming out as a mutant was gonna work out great, for her, that maybe Emma Frost was wrong about what she said, about how, people don't like mutants, don't tell people you're a mutant because humans have difficulty dealing with the idea of talking to someone who they know eventually at some point is going to replace them as the dominant species on the earth. And while Kamala is trying to be wide-eyed and optimistic as usual, it actually backfires on her this issue. Now, granted, not with Bruno. Bruno is not that type of person. Bruno is very happy to learn everything about Ms. Marvel that he had forgotten due to his mind being wiped by Emma Frost. He forgot that Kamala died. He didn't know that she was a mutant. That part he wouldn't have known anyway. But yeah, he is happy. He's not angry with her in any way. He supports her full stop. But everyone else is kind of at odds with her on this. Her family doesn't know any of this information yet, but the idea that Ms. Marvel clearly saves people from an explosion, and everyone just sees what they want to see. They see a mutant, they see someone that ORCHIS has told them to believe is dangerous, and while she's not hurting them, she's protecting them from a suicide bomber in the form of a dying Chitauri. But yeah, they think that she tried to kill them. And she's not dealing with that particularly well because while she's used to being hated, she's not used to being hated for this reason. Now, the other elephant in the room, and I don't really have a whole lot to say about this. I don't really know what's going on here, but at the beginning of this issue, Ms. Marvel is having a crazy dream. Now, I initially wrote this off when reading it as her just having her overactive imagination doing its thing, just running wild like Hulkamania in the 80s, just doing her normal fangirly thing, and that's not really what this was. This is a legitimate dream, a dream she mentions having had repeatedly. She's actually been having this very same dream for the last 10 weeks by her own admission. So what I find interesting here is that, well, yes, this is very likely a prophetic dream. I wonder if this has anything to do with her latent mutant power. And when you get to the end of it, you start seeing that there is a character who shows up at the very end, someone who very clearly has the power of the Silver Surfer as well as the power of the Sorcerer Supreme. I don't know who this character is. I'm gonna go on a limb and say this is somebody that's brand new to Marvel Comics, most likely. And I feel like just based on being a person who tends to have dreams of this nature, not, like this exactly, but what I mean is just like, I often have dreams that I don't really know what they mean. I don't really get what I'm supposed to glean from it. And sure enough, it could be a year, it could be 2 years, it could be 3 months, it could even be 3 days later. I will have a deja vu and be like, I have been here before. And sure enough, the thing I dreamed about is happening right then and there. I wonder if this is one of those similar experiences where in a roundabout way, all these crazy things are happening. And yeah, it's all stuff that she has seen and done before, but I feel like all of this is kind of leading to her recognizing the moment that her X gene is going to be activated. It's not to say that she's going to see all this crazy stuff when it happens. I don't think that's going to be the case. Maybe this could be all meant to tell us what she's going to be encountering later, but I feel like it's kind of hints and teases at maybe what her power is going to be. It could be a hint and a tease that maybe her power is going to become something more like her idol, Captain Marvel. Who's to say it wouldn't? Maybe they're not going to go with the whole hard like construct deal from the MCU. I think it'd be a missed opportunity to kind of put some parity between the two, but it doesn't mean that's going to be the case. But I do think all of this is in some way, shape, form, or fashion tied to the fact that her X gene is going to eventually activate, and it's not going to be something that she's expecting, and no one in the universe is really expecting it either, because her X gene has been rendered dormant by Terrigenesis. But I think that's going to be undone. That said, that's really everything I want to talk about with this issue. I know some people are probably going to want me to talk about the beef between Ms. Marvel and Kate Pryde. There's not really anything to say there. I think it's something I even talked about in the previous video for XMen number 25. So go revisit that video for my thoughts on that. But that said, if you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing, like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure you tap that notification bell so that way you don't miss out on any of the videos that I put out. And until next time, let me know what you thought about Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant #1. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.